me ask you something. An $850 million building. Hollywood celebrities, world leaders, former presidents. The red carpet rolled out, the champagne poured, the speeches given, and somewhere in Chicago right now, there are black-owned contractors who built that building, who put their sweat and their crews and their business reputations into that building, and they have not been paid. They have not been paid. Now, I want you to hold that thought. I want you to just sit with it for a second. $850 million. And the guys who did the work are owed millions. But don't you worry, because Oprah showed up. Steven Spielberg was there. Former presidents in attendance. The whole gang. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, a small contractor who believed in the project, who probably felt some civic pride about it, is staring at invoices that nobody is returning calls on. If a Republican did this, oh, my friends, I'm Rick LeBeau. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. All right, let me paint you the full picture here, folks, because this Obama Presidential Center story has got everything. It has got the Hollywood glitter and the self-congratulation and the soaring rhetoric about community, and then underneath all of it, if you look, you've got unpaid contractors, displacement concerns from the actual neighborhood the thing was supposed to serve, and a price tag that somehow ballooned to $850 million. $850 million. You know, when they announced this thing, they said it was going to be a gift to the south side of Chicago. A gift for the people who actually live there. And now those same people are warning that the monstrosity, that's their word, not mine, that's the locals' word, is going to price them right out of the neighborhood. Which would be, to use a term that our friends on the left love, a form of displacement of the very community the center was supposed to celebrate. Now, I want to be fair here. Presidential libraries and centers are a tradition in this country. Every president gets one. And there is nothing wrong in principle with Barack Obama having one. Nothing. Fine, great, good. But here's where it gets rich. The Obama Presidential Center has been presented in the press, in speeches, by the man himself, as a monument to community, to the South Side, to giving back, to uplifting the disadvantaged. That was the pitch. That was always the pitch. And the drive-by media ate it up and asked for seconds. So when you hear that the contractors who are left holding unpaid invoices are, in many cases, minority-owned businesses, black-owned businesses, that should set off alarm bells everywhere. That should be the story. That should be on the front page of every newspaper in America. It will not be. Now, here's what happened at the opening. Big party, massive, celebrities everywhere you look. Oprah, Spielberg. I'm told there were former presidents in attendance, world leaders. The kind of crowd that makes you feel like you accidentally wandered onto the set of a very expensive awards show. And everybody is smiling and hugging and talking about legacy and community and hope and all the rest of it. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I say this with all the modesty I can muster, which, my friends, you know, is not much. I am thinking, who exactly does this center serve? Because the people who are supposed to be served by it are warning it's going to push them out. And the people who actually built it are warning they haven't been paid. There's an old line I've used before, and I'll use again. Democrats prefer symbolism over substance. Every single time. They love the ribbon cutting. They love the speeches. They love the photographs. What they are considerably less interested in is what happens to the actual human beings involved once the cameras pack up and go home. $850 million, and it started out considerably lower than that. You know how these things go. When government or quasi-government or the nonprofit world orbiting the political class, when they manage money, it has a way of expanding. Costs balloon, timelines stretch, and accountability is always somebody else's department. Now, let me bring in the Joe Rogan story for a moment here, because it connects. It connects beautifully. Joe Rogan came out this week and said that during the COVID era, former presidents, plural, were contacting Spotify personally, trying to get him removed from the platform for what they called vaccine misinformation. And Rogan's point, and it's a good one, is turned out to be right. All of it. Now, I cannot tell you with certainty exactly who made those calls. Rogan says he can't even talk about it fully. But I'll let you use your own imagination about which ex-president was spending his post-White House years on the phone with a streaming company trying to silence a podcaster. Who do we know that fancies himself a guardian of information? Who do we know that has made a second career out of telling you what you're allowed to hear? Whose foundation and whose orbit has been deeply intertwined with exactly this kind of behind-the-scenes media pressure? I'm just asking questions here, folks, with my half a brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. The nerve of it, the sheer breathtaking nerve, to stand up at an $850 million monument to yourself on the south side of Chicago, which is still one of the most violent cities in America, by the way, and have everyone applaud your great legacy of community, while simultaneously your people were on the phone trying to make sure Americans couldn't hear Joe Rogan talk about vitamin D. It is something, folks. It truly is. Now, I want to tell you one more thing about this center, and then I want to move on. There's a Spielberg connection here, too. Steven Spielberg was there, front and center. And there is a piece out this week about Spielberg's involvement in what's being called a kind of cultural war adjacent project that has Obama's fingerprints all over it. The details there are worth your time to look up. The short version is that our Hollywood betters have decided, as they always do, that they know better than you what story America should be telling about itself. And they have the money and the platforms to make sure their version is the one you see. This is what the Obama Center really is, ultimately. It's not a library in the traditional sense. It's a command center for a particular vision of America, for a particular narrative about what this country is and what it owes and to whom. And it cost $850 million to build. And some of the people who built it still haven't been paid. And the neighborhood it sits in is already being warned it may not be able to afford to stay. But Oprah was there, so I'm sure it'll all work out. My friends. All right, let's get through the roundup because we have got some good ones today. Story number 1, Tim Walz. Now, for those of you who remember the last election cycle, Walz was Kamala Harris's running mate, the governor of Minnesota, the man who called himself Coach and who the media presented as this warm, folksy, authentic Midwesterner who was definitely not weird. His approval rating in Minnesota has now dropped to 39%. And here's the part I really enjoy. He is now polling below Donald Trump in his own state. Trump is at 42% in Minnesota. Walz is at 39. I mean, folks, the reason? A massive fraud scandal. And I do mean massive. Under Walz's watch, Minnesota became ground zero for one of the largest COVID-era pandemic relief fraud schemes in American history. Hundreds of millions of dollars, meant for feeding children, no less, went to fraudsters, went to people who were either wildly inflating numbers or, in some cases, inventing children entirely. And the Walz administration, let's say, was not exactly on the case. People in Minnesota are, in the words of one survey respondent, tired of it, which I think is a very polite way of putting it. Here's the thing about Tim Walz. The media fell in love with him during the campaign. He was going to be the antidote to Republican weirdness, the normal guy, the football coach who gets it. And now he's underwater in his own state, being outpolled by the man the media told you was the greatest threat to democracy since the Huns showed up in Europe. Don't doubt me, my friends. Don't ever doubt me. Story number 2, and this one you are going to love. There's a congressional candidate by the name of Elaine Luria, former representative Democrat from Virginia. In 2022, she was still in Congress, and the question of banning members of Congress from trading individual stocks came up, which is a completely reasonable idea, by the way. One of the few things left and right actually agree on. Congress people have access to information that regular investors do not have, and they have been getting rich off it for years. The fix is obvious. Back in 2022, Luria called the stock trading ban, and I'm quoting here, bull snob, her word. She thought it was ridiculous. She opposed it. Now she's running for her old seat again, and she has had what I'll call a conversion experience. She now supports the stock trading ban. Full-throated support. She's for the people now. I will give her this. At least she's reading the polls. The American public has made it crystal clear they are tired of watching their elected representatives trade on inside knowledge and get rich while they lecture everyone else about sacrifice and fairness and paying their fair share. So now, Luria has seen the light. The cynic in me, and my friends, there is a lot of cynic to go around, says this is less about principle and more about the fact that she needs votes. When she had the seat, she thought the ban was profanity. Now that she wants the seat back, she's found religion on the issue. Remarkable thing, an election. Story number 3, and I want you to pay attention to this one, because the drive-by media will not cover it with anything like the attention it deserves. There is a progressive candidate running for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. His name is Abdul El-Sayed. His communications director, the person whose job it is to manage the campaign's message and public image, a woman named Roxy Richner, has a documented history of social media posts expressing what I will politely call intense hostility toward white women specifically. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, what would happen if a Republican Senate candidate's communications director had a documented history of posts expressing hostility toward any other racial group. Any other one. Pick one. Take your time. You know the answer. The campaign would be over by lunch. CNN would be running a countdown clock. There would be calls for resignation, for apology, for explanation, and if the explanation wasn't sufficiently groveling, more calls for resignation. Instead, relative quiet. The story is out there, but you're not going to see it treated as disqualifying in the way anything similar from a Republican would be. This is what they call the coalition of the oppressed in practice, folks. The rules only apply in one direction. Anti-white sentiment is not only tolerated in progressive circles, it is at times openly celebrated. And when someone gets caught, the response is usually that it's punching up or speaking truth to power or some other phrase designed to explain why this particular kind of hatred is actually justified. It is not. Bigotry is bigotry. And a party that lectures America daily about inclusion and tolerance while employing people who post things like this is not a party that has any business giving anyone a morality lecture. Don't get me started, folks. I'm just getting warmed up, and I can see the clock. All right, my friends, let me leave you with a couple of things. Today is Juneteenth, and there are people out there, the 1619 Project crowd, the professional grievance industry, who want to use every American holiday, including this one, as an indictment of the country. They want to take a day that is actually a celebration of America's hard-won, blood-soaked triumph over one of its greatest sins and turn it into a referendum on why America is irredeemable. They are wrong. Juneteenth is the opposite of their argument. It is proof that the American promise, the one written in Philadelphia in 1776, was bigger than those who tried to strangle it, that it survived, that it won, that is worth celebrating by every American. Nearly 4 in 10 Democrats, according to a new poll, say they are ashamed to be American. Ashamed. And next month we have the 250th anniversary of the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever attempted. I don't know what to say to those people, honestly. I don't. I think the correct response is not anger, it's pity. To be born into the freest, wealthiest, most extraordinary country in human history and to spend your days ashamed of it, that's not politics. That's a personal problem. Meanwhile, up in Arkansas, the governor announced what she's calling a major breakthrough on education. Under the LEARNS Act, Arkansas students have shown a 7% proficiency gain. 7%. That's not a rounding error. That's real kids reading better and doing math better because someone in state government actually cared about results instead of union contracts. That's the blueprint, folks. That's what it looks like when you govern. When you stop worrying about what the teachers' unions will say and start worrying about what the kids are actually learning, red states are getting it done. Blue states are still arguing about which pronouns to put in the curriculum. The results speak for themselves. They always do. My friends, it has been a wonderful Friday. Juneteenth. The Obama Center is open. Tim Walz is underwater in his own state. Joe Rogan is being proven right about everything. And somewhere in Arkansas, a kid who couldn't read last year can read today. I'll take it. I'm Rick LeBeau. This has been Rush Hour, same time tomorrow if they let us back on.